Okay, just gotta find a good picture to you. Hi, Ricardo.
Hey man, how's it going?
Pretty alright. No, wait. Everything's actually pretty good. Yeah, I think that's right.
You think?
Yeah, you're right. Everything's just alright.
You wanna hang out this
Yeah,
weekend?
sure. I just gotta finish this one thing really quickly.
What do you have to do?
I just gotta do a video on the Fantastic Four movie from 2005. I've been meaning to do one on it for a while now, but I just kept forgetting to.
Alright, that sounds good.
Yeah, I was actually about to start, right before you call. Oh, I forgot I turned on my camera already. Alright, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Okay, yes, so sorry about that. Anyway, the Fantastic Four. I absolutely love them. I mentioned this in my Fan Four Stick video about the video about the 2015 movie, which you should check out that video if you haven't seen it. I think it came out pretty good. The video, not the movie. The movie's actually pretty bad. But I said that like over the past few years, I have become such a big Fantastic Four fan because I've actually looked into the comics. Yeah, that's right. I'm not just like one of those comic book fans that only watches like the movies and stuff. No, I've actually been trying to get myself more knowledgeable on comics, and the Fantastic Four are absolutely amazing. I'm not going to go on and on about what makes them great. If you want to see someone like, go over that, go watch B-Mask's video on the Fantastic Four. It's absolutely incredible. But like essentially, yes, I've grown to really love these characters and their adventures, and they're just so much fun, so much fun, and so interesting. And like Reed Richards has honestly become maybe my favorite Marvel character, possibly. But yes, the Fantastic Four are awesome, and it is a shame that they have not gotten good media outside the comics. Like the cartoons, I've seen a little bit of now, but like they're good, but not as good as the stories in the comics, and like the movies is a whole other story. You already know Fan Four Stick is not good, but what about this one, the 2005 film? Well, I'm gonna go over it because I have actually some interesting, things to say about this movie. To the fact where I was kind of going in, kind of expecting it not to be great, but I still want to be optimistic. I'm like, maybe there's some good stuff in here, and honestly, I did enjoy it more than I expected. I wouldn't say it's a great movie, but I do think there's some stuff in here that makes me think if like executed better, this could have been a pretty darn good Fantastic Four movie. Except it isn't. It's still kind of got some garbage in there. And yes, I did get the Blu-ray. I was not planning on it. I had watched the movie on Disney Plus with the hopes of making this video, but then it kept getting pushed. And then a few weeks ago, I was at Half Price Books and I saw this Blu-ray and I saw that it had commentary with the cast, and I was just like, okay, extra research to do. So yeah, I legit bought it just to hear that, and I did. I watched it again with the commentary, and it actually added a bit to what I wanted to say. Added some more things for me to say in this video. So yeah, here are my thoughts on the 2005 Fantastic Four film and how it's kind of close in some parts to being legitimately really good. Okay, maybe not really good, but like, at least good, like legitimately pretty darn good. It's kind of close to that is what I'm saying. Anyway, Fantastic Four 2005, what is it about? Well, it tells this origin story of the Fantastic Four, this version of the Fantastic Four, where in this version, Ben and Reed really want to get this like project in the air where they want to send this rocket into space to do some exploration stuff. Or something other, I don't know. I'm bad at, plot descriptions in these videos. Y'all know this. But like, essentially, yes, they want to do that, but they have to get funding from Victor Von Doom. And apparently he's dating Susan Storm, who used to be Reed's ex-girlfriend. That's right, we're doing one of these plots, apparently. And so, after some, talking, they say, all right, let's do it. We'll do it. But we need to get another person on board to pilot the ship. Unfortunately, it won't be Ben. And so they got Johnny Storm, Susan's brother, and now all of them, including Victor Von Doom, are in space, and then they get hit with some rays, something like that. It's like that story. You know how the Fantastic Four get their what their origin is. They go into space. Space stuff happens, and then boom, they got their powers. And then when we get back to Earth, we see that they had to deal with those, and they're famous. And like Victor is noticing some side effects as well, because apparently like his skin is turning metal or something like that, and like he also has like these electric powers. I don't know, it was a little bit weird, but like, yes, the Fantastic Four, they gotta deal with their powers now, and Victor is like evil because, he's not handsome anymore. He's got some weird stuff going on with his face. Yeah, so yeah, that's the movie. That's okay. Like I said, I'm not good with plot descriptions. They're kind of one of my least favorite things to describing the plot is one of my least favorite things to do in these videos. Essentially, what you need to know is that this is the origin for the Fantastic Four and Victor Von Doom, for Doctor Doom. And like, I don't love the idea that they were on the same thing that caused their, powers or their accidents. You know what I mean? They did the same thing in Fantastic, and like, I don't know. I think Doctor Doom has just so much to himself as a character that just putting him on the same thing that gave the Fantastic Four their powers, like saying, oh, it happened at the same time. They became the Fantastic Four and he became Doctor Doom at the same time. Like, I don't know. I don't really love that because I just think there's so much to Doctor Doom that like just he could have like his own story essentially, or like something that like just essentially what I'm saying is don't put him on the same thing, right, as the like on the same ship as the Fantastic Four. I just think it's like doesn't work for me personally. Essentially yes, like I said, this is supposed to be their origin story. So we see them learn how to use their powers and then rise up to be great heroes. Except they kind of barely do stuff in this movie. Oh yeah, the Fantastic Four, I've mentioned this before, but what I really liked about them, I mentioned this in the Fantastic video, which you should check out. Please check out that video. What I like about the Fantastic Four, from what I've read, is that they're not really superheroes. They're more like adventurers, explorers, going out on like wild adventures and doing a bunch of crazy sci-fi stuff. And they still do superhero stuff, like they'll save the city, they'll help people, and even sometimes in the comics they do refer to them as superheroes, but in actuality they are just like more like explorers / adventurers. In this movie, however, they don't really do much exploring or adventuring, but they also don't do much superheroing stuff either. Like, the big thing that causes them to be famous, because that's what I mentioned that earlier, they become famous in this, and everyone's like, oh, we love you, Fantastic Four, is they stop, like, some accident on the bridge, which they inadvertently kind of cause, and then everyone's all like, oh my god, those guys with their powers, they saved us, and then they kind of, like, are famous now. And then they don't do anything else heroic to like it was just that one thing, but all of a sudden now there's like, merch for them, and they're like everyone wants their autograph and picture. It's like but like that's the only thing they did. That's just that one thing. And then like I don't know, it's like, imagine like the Disney movie Hercules, where Hercules like defeats like the Hydra, or like the giant three-headed creature. That's what it was called, right? The Hydra. And then he becomes famous. And then like we'd see the Zero to Hero song sequence where they sing Zero to Hero, right? That's a great song, probably my favorite song from the movie, honestly. And like we see him do other heroic stuff within that montage, that song sequence, and it's great. And so we see like why everyone is falling in love with Hercules and why there's like all this merch for him and stuff, because he's doing more and more heroic things. But the Fantastic Four don't have that. This is just that one thing. It's like this is like that in Hercules if they just got rid of Zero to Hero, and I love Zero to Hero. But like yeah, it's like they just don't do anything until like towards the end where they have to defeat Doctor Doom, which is also their fault as well, his creation, because like they were on the same ship that caused him to become like that, the same accident. So essentially they only fix the problems that they caused. And it's like, I don't really like that. Like, some things do happen between the first heroic thing they do and the last heroic thing they do, but it's mostly just them kind of hanging out, trying to figure out how to use their powers. And I do like some of those moments. It just feels like they're not really gaining any experience, like to be better heroes, or even like how to properly use their like powers for good. It just kind of seems like they're just kind of hanging out, kind of like basking. Johnny's really the only one basking in the fame, but like, which makes sense for his character, but still it's like nothing really like feels like is happening like major. Like, I'm not getting why people are loving the Fantastic Four. Like, they're just sitting around doing nothing. Like, yeah, sure, they can do weird stuff now, but like they're just sitting around. And like I will get into a little bit later about what parts from those moments I do like, but it just feels like very strange that like they don't do anything superhero-y in like what is supposed to be a superhero film. Like, imagine if like, alright, for example, the Disney movie Hercules? I love that movie. I think it has great songs. It's all good stuff. But like the scene where like Hercules defeats the Hydra is like the first thing, like the giant creature that everyone starts to notice, like, oh my god, this Hercules guy is actually really cool. That's like his first heroic thing he does, just to prove like he's like a hero, or like he's gonna be a great hero. And then later we see people like kind of praising him, going like, oh my god, Hercules is so awesome, making merch of him. But but what happens is he does do continuous heroic stuff. We get the whole Zero to Hero moment, which is probably my favorite song, where we hear the song Zero to Hero play as he does multiple heroic things, fighting different monsters, saving people, all that stuff. And then that's where we also see the merch and everything, because, you know, everyone has Hercules fever, and that moment's great. But imagine if, like, they just got rid of that. He just defeats the Hydra, does nothing, maybe, like, you know, basking, like, all his merch, his action figures, all that stuff. And then the next heroic thing he does is defeat the Titans in Hades. That's it. That's kind of this, essentially. And it's I think that's what this movie needed. I'm not saying it needs to be, like, I need to have a Zero to Hero moment, like a song or anything. No, I'm not saying no, though that would have been interesting. I'm just saying it needs to have multiple moments of the Fantastic Four doing heroic stuff in between, you know, the first big thing and the last big thing, you know, to show that, hey, these guys are heroes, and, you know, everyone's praise of them makes sense, so it doesn't look like they're just doing nothing. I want to talk a bit about, like, the characterizations in this movie, because I think some of them are pretty darn good, others not really. For example, I'm going to start with the ones I really do like. Ben and Johnny Storm. I think Michael Chiklis as Ben Grimm, the Thing, and I believe that was his name, Michael Chiklis, and Chris Evans, that's right, Captain America from the MCU, was Johnny Storm in this Marvel movie. And, like, yeah, he plays, like I said, Johnny Storm, and I think both of them do a really good job. Like, I think for the most part, maybe Johnny is, like, there's some things I'm gonna get into, but, like, for the most part, they have, like, a really good understanding of, like, their characters, and, like, they actually portray them really well. And, like, I don't know, I think story-wise, what they've written for them, I think actually, like, it makes me think that they genuinely had a good understanding of, like, what made these characters great. Like Ben, we have, like, the whole thing where, like, he, like, feels like he's a monster now, and he just wants to go back to normal, and he has to grow to, like, learn that, like, he can use these powers for good, and that he's not a monster. And, like, Michael Chiklis, I think does a really good job. I think I really like the voice that he does for Ben, for when he turns into the Thing. That's good. And the suit that they give him, it's, like, not CGI. It might be CGI in some action parts, but, like, essentially they gave him, like a suit. It's, like, practical effects, and, you know, I like it. It is a little bit goofy looking, but it's also kind of charming, I think. I don't know. And my only issue with it is that, like, he is about the same height as, like, the rest of the Fantastic Four, and I kind of like it when the Thing is, like, slightly bigger than them. I'm not saying towering over them, but just, like, you know, a good amount, a bit bigger, if that makes any sense. I'm bad at speaking, but I don't know. I like it. I like that they went that route, and that apparently, I think I heard that it was his decision, that he was all like, hey, I want to be in a suit, you know, right, when I play the Thing. And, you know, that's cool. And Michael Chiklis apparently was a big Fantastic Four fan, so he was really adamant on playing this character, and that's pretty great. Even if the movie itself wasn't amazing, it is kind of nice to know that someone in the movie genuinely want to be this character and want to be a part of it. And, like, even listening to the commentary, the Blu-ray's right there, I'll get it later, he actually was kind of the one leading the whole commentary alongside some of the other cast members, like, kind of being, like, the one giving out all the main facts and, like, interesting tidbits. And, like, I don't know, it genuinely seems like he had a good time on this movie, and that he had a great time playing this character, and I think that's pretty great. And speaking of, like, you know, Ben, like, there's other good moments in the movie that I really like. When he meets, like, Alicia Masters, and they have their cute little bonding moment where she, like, you know, right, kind of tries to make him feel better and tries to say he's not a monster. Like, that is genuinely a really sweet moment, and I enjoyed that. Like, I don't know, I just think they did Ben pretty darn well in this movie. And Johnny Storm, played by Chris Evans, is, I think, also really good. Chris Evans is just a really charming actor. Like, I don't know, he's just a really good actor. Like, he's really good with the range, like, you know, when it comes to, like, the different characters he plays. And here it's just, like, I don't know, I think he did a good job. I liked his Johnny Storm. Like, he had the cockiness, and, like, the idea that Johnny is the main one who wants to bask in, like, the you know, the fame, and the one who's, like, the most excited about having these powers just makes sense for his character, I think. I do think they kind of didn't really add the more nuanced part of his character. I think, like, he is mainly cocky and, like, the comic relief for most of the movie. And I think Johnny Storm, while he is that, I do think, like, there is more to his character. Like, he, like, someone who grows, like, he is someone who can be a little bit narcissistic, but definitely grows to genuinely love being a hero. And, like, I do think they kind of did not add that part. It was mainly just him being excited that he has powers. But, like, he's excited to have the powers, and, you know, but they don't really have him, like, kind of grow to be, like, become more mature as the story goes on, or, like, you know, or, like, realize, hey, you know, these powers aren't just for, you know, being famous, they're also for helping people. They kind of didn't really add that, but, like, I guess the just some parts of Johnny Storm are definitely still there, and like I kind of feel like if they had fixed it up, they could have added more of a character growth journey for him. But like still, for what they did, Chris Evans did a really good job, and I could see him being a really good Johnny with with that more nuance to him essentially. But what we got here, I think, was still charming. He was one of my favorite parts of the movie. Like, I honestly think there's some really great interactions with Ben and Johnny in this, where Johnny's just kind of making fun of him or pranking him. Like, just like the one part where he just like looks at him, like at Ben, and he just goes like, "Where are your ears?" This is when he's turned into the thing. That got a good laugh out of me, honestly. Like, those two were the best parts. But like, what about Susan Storm and Mr. Fantastic? I think they're not terrible, but they could have been better. So Mr. Fantastic, aka Reed Richards, is played by Ian Grufford. I believe that's how you say his name. And he is like, you know Mr. Fantastic. He can stretch any part of his body, and like he's super smart, the smartest character in the Marvel universe. And he's great. I think he's like super fascinating in the comics, and I think he might be like, he is definitely my favorite member of the Fantastic Four character wise, like, and I think might even be my favorite Marvel character. I don't know, I haven't decided yet, but I think he's really interesting. Here though, I don't know, not as much. Like, I think he definitely looks the part. When I saw him, I was just like, okay, that is definitely like a guy that looks like Mr. Fantastic, honestly. And the stretching powers, I will get to that in a bit. But like, I definitely think he looks the part. And like, but in this movie, like, I don't know, they show that he's smart, but at the same time, not like as smart as like he really is. Like in the comics, he is like stupidly smart, and he has this tendency to go on like these rambles about scientific things, saying all this science mumbo jumbo, and then the other members will have to be like, "Reed, speak English, please." And like, the movie didn't really have many moments like that, except maybe one, which was kind of neat. I just kind of wish there was more of that. But like, I don't know, I just never really got the idea that he was like the smartest. I feel like they could have gone farther with it. And another thing is that it's his relationship with like the Invisible Woman, aka Susan Storm, played by Jessica Alba. The way they play it off in this movie, like, I think their relationship in the comics is really interesting. They were dating, and then they get married, and then there's like some troubles here and there where like he gets too caught up in his own work, and like she feels like she's not as important to him as like science is, and like they kind of have those problems, but it is still interesting, and you can tell they still do love each other, and he just has to get better at like showing that. And I that is sort of here, because a big thing about this movie is that like they used to date prior, but now she's with Victor Von Doom, and the big reason why they broke up is because he could never, I guess, like fully commit to the relationship or something. And like, but like the way they play it off in this movie feels more like the plot of a rom-com. I can see it already be like, they used to date, but he could never commit, so she broke up with him. But after some big meetup, they realize that they are meant to be. But will Reed really be able to learn from his mistakes and be with the one girl he loves? And also like he can like stretch and she can turn invisible. It just feels like a rom-com plot, and like, I don't know, some part of me thinks that's funny, but at the same time, it kind of made me not really care too much about their relationship in this, because it made me go like, oh, okay, I've seen this kind of plot before, right? Like, oh, they're gonna get back together after they reconnect, and then Reed learns to like, right, to fix like the issues that he's had before, and then like, boom, they're back together. I remember Spider-Man PS4, like the Spider-Man PS4 game did a similar plot with Mary Jane and Peter Parker, and I gonna be honest, I think it was more interesting there than it was in here. But that's probably because like, I think Susan Storm may not have been the most interesting character in this, which I'll get into. But like, yeah, that's what they do. That's like just the main plot line they do with Reed. And like, I don't know, I just didn't really find that all that interesting. Like, I know I said in the comics, it's like they have like the thing where like he is kind of too caught up with his work, and that's kind of causes some like tension between their marriage and stuff. But here it's like that doesn't really seem like to be the issue. It's not that he's caught up with his work, it's more like I guess he's just scared to commit, and it's like, I've seen this plotline before, I don't care. But like, yeah, I don't know, since I didn't really care about that plotline, it kind of meant that I didn't really care too much about Reed's journey or story in this, since that was kind of the main thing, besides like trying to figure out how to, he tries to build a machine to try to help Ben get back to the way he was, right? Back to like a regular person and not a rock monster. And that I think was more interesting than the relationship with Susan. Susan Storm is played by Jessica Alba, and I think she's a pretty good actress. I think she has done a good job in other things, but here it just kind of feels like, it's not that her acting is bad, it just feels like they don't give her much to do. She just like kind of is just there to be, Reed's love interest. And like, they don't really do that many interesting things with her invisibility powers, except for scenes where she just has to get naked to be invisible. which I'll get into that. I don't like those scenes. And I feel like I was doing some research on this, and it really seems like Jessica Alba did not have a good time on this set from the like things that I've heard her say and like some other things like interviews and whatnot. But in the commentary, she actually does speak on the experience more positive, except for one scene which I'll get into later, because it does seem like she genuinely likes this cast and like she had like good times sometimes on the set. So I don't know, maybe like this was recorded after, well, this is obviously recorded after they did the movie, so maybe she like looked on the experiences more fondly, or maybe they were lying on this on this commentary, and then like she tells the truth later on in the interviews, which is a possibility. But like I kind of don't want to believe that, because they all genuinely sounded super happy and like that they liked each other, that I kind of don't want to believe that's a lie. But like essentially, yes, from what I've heard somewhere, Jessica Alba had like ideas for what she wanted to do with the Invisible Woman, Susan Storm, but like the director Tim Story, who apparently was not really a big Fantastic Four fan, which like I'm not saying directors or people who work on stuff have to be like ginormous fans of like the specific property they're handling, but I do feel like they should have like at least some sort of knowledge on it. And since he didn't, I don't know, maybe that says something about this movie. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Tim Story kind of told her like, no, we're not gonna do anything you say. Just like, just kind of just have to be there. You just have to be there. Something like that. I can't find the exact quote. I lost it somewhere. But like, essentially, they kind of like told her to just like kind of just be there, but not. So they didn't really have much interesting stuff to do with her except to just be the love interest, and that's a shame, because Susan Storm is so interesting in the comics. I think she's great, and she has like some of the coolest like things to do with her powers. Like the way she explores her powers and like what to do with them is insane. Like she can turn herself invisible, but she can turn other things invisible too, and even threatens someone like when she wants to get some information or something. She like threatens to like kind of turn one of their organs invisible and then like cause them to die. She doesn't do it. She even goes like, honestly, I don't know if I can do that. But the fact that she thinks about it like kind of shows just how kind of cool she is. Like, oh man, she like has like a good understanding of what her powers are, and like is even able to go farther with them than just turning invisible and making force fields. It's like, I don't know. I'm rambling. I'm probably not even explaining it right. I have a tendency to not explain things right when I'm way too excited. But like, essentially, yes, Invisible Woman is super cool in the comics, and like here, and like with the whole big thing about the movie is that there's a big chunk of it where they explore their powers. It would have been nice if she got a further exploration and realized all the cool crap she can do. But like, she kind of just turns invisible, makes force fields. That's about it. And like I said before, since I didn't really find her that interesting because they barely do stuff with her besides just being the love interest, it kind of caused me like to not really care too much about the romance plot. Like I was just like, I don't care if these two people get together, honestly. But if it was in the comics, like if they had done it like they did in the comics, essentially, it probably would have been better. I'm sorry. It's just like I really love those Fantastic Four comics. Something else that they talked about, Jessica Alba specifically talked about, is that like they essentially so apparently so Jessica Alba, in case you don't know, is like Latina. All right, awesome. And Invisible Woman, Susan Storm, is mainly white in the comics. But I think it's okay that they cast a Latina woman because, like, that's perfectly fine, right? Like, the race itself doesn't really matter, and it's like, all right, that's perfectly fine, I think that's good, and like I said before, I think Jessica Alba has done a good job acting in other things, so I'm sure she could honestly be a good Invisible Woman. But, like, what they did in this movie is that they made her lighter skinned, they gave her blonde hair, and, like, essentially what they were doing is, like, they wanted to just make her look like she did in the comics, so, like, but, like, as far as to like just changing the tone of her skin tone quite a bit, so like essentially they just wanted to make her look like a white woman, and it's like at that point, why not just cast a white woman, is what I'm saying. It's just like it feels weird, like again, like I don't mind that they cast a Latina woman. I think it's pretty great, but like if you're gonna, it's like, I don't know, if you're gonna change her up that much to the point where she looks nothing like she's like supposed to, like naturally looks, then like why like get a Latina woman instead when when it sounds like if you wanted a white woman, just get a white woman. That'd be like the equivalent of like in the new Fantastic Four movie, they get Pedro Pascal and they just make him white. It's like, it'd be weird, but like essentially, yeah, I think that was kind of bad that they did that, man. And I feel bad for Jessica Alba. I mean, it sounds like she at least liked some parts of the set, but like when I hear other stuff, I'm like, God, Jessica Alba, I'm so sorry. I can see why you don't act as much anymore. Like the industry is like, Yeah. Okay, so apparently I guess I have a lot more to say about the Invisible Woman when it comes to the behind the scenes stuff rather than the actual stuff she does in this movie. But like, okay, so there is one scene, technically two scenes, but I'm gonna mainly talk about this one scene first, where like they're like on the bridge. There's like an accident that happened that they inadvertently caused, and Reed is all like, wait, I know what you do. Susan, turn invisible and try to get in there and like, you know, stop it. And then she goes like, okay, but she turns invisible and you can still see the clothes. And keep in mind, there's a bunch of people around, so everyone can see what's going on. So they see her turn invisible, and then Reed goes like, you need to strip, and then go in there, and then so no one will be able to see you. But like, the thing about this scene is that it makes no sense. Like, why does she need to turn invisible at all? Like, everyone can clearly see her, so if they see her turn invisible, they'll know she's still there. And why does she need to strip at all? I'm sure I know the executives' reasons why. It's because Jessica Alba is attractive and they just want to see her, like, you know, barely clothed, you know, right? I'm sure that's the reason. But story-wise, why? You know, right? I'm like, they're just all standing there. They're gonna see her regardless if she turns invisible or not because they know she's there. And it's not gonna help the situation at all. No, really, it doesn't. Like, her turning invisible and going in there does not help it at all. Some other stuff does. And, like, what sucks even more about this scene is not just the fact that it feels like stupid within the story reason. It's like it feels dumb. Like, she doesn't have to do that. It's that it wasn't in the script originally. When they casted Jessica Alba after the script was written, you know, they realized, oh, Jessica Alba's going to be the Invisible Woman. Let's add that in. No, really, they say that in the documentary. Jessica Alba says she found that out, that they added the script after, like, they added that scene into the script after she was casted, and she absolutely hated it. She hated doing the scene. She like says it in this that she hated doing it, and that sucks so much. Again, I feel so bad for Jessica Alba. She deserved better, honestly. Yeah. So that's the thing with these two. About these, I think they are good. Like, I think like they would honestly be good actors to portray these characters. I just don't like the way they write the characters in the movie so much so that it feels like, you know, I think like overall this cast is really good, especially like Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis, but Ian Gruffudd and Jessica Alba feel wasted. Like, I do think they would be genuinely really good Mr. Fantastic, genuinely good Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman, but the way they write them feels like, well, that's a waste of good casting. And now I'm gonna talk about, okay, if I'm wrong, I will like add it in like I'll put a little thing here, but like Julian McMahon, I believe, plays Dr. Doom in this, and okay, I don't like him, honestly. Yeah, they kind of make Dr. Doom in this more like an like evil rich guy, like douchebag, and like not like the actual interesting character Dr. Doom is in the comics as a villain. Like, he is like someone who is like on par in like intelligence, or like almost on par in intelligence with Reed Richards, but unlike Reed, where he kind of doubts himself every now and then and tries to be better, Dr. Doom believes he is better, and it has like this sort of like jealousy and anger towards Reed that it causes him to like do evil stuff. And like, yeah, that is what I think makes him interesting, that relationship to Reed, the fact that he thinks he's better. And that's kind of here as well, but like it feels less like he thinks like he's like better than him in intelligence and skill wise. He just thinks it's more played off like he thinks he's better because, like, I don't know, he's richer and like more successful, which is like lame. I don't know, I don't like that. They basically make him like an evil douchebag like businessman, and like I don't like it like that. And like I said before, I don't like that they added him on the same accident that caused the Fantastic Four to get their powers, because like I think like his actual backstory, I won't go too deep into it because I think like that's someone else would do a better job at explaining it. But essentially, like, you know, right, there was the whole thing where he went to college with Reed, and then like after some accident, like he got like a deformity on his face, but it was like not that big of a deal, but like he thought it was. So then he goes through all this training to learn magic, and then like gets this like metal mask, and like it's all super cool. And like, I don't know, I'm not gonna go too deep into it because I don't feel like it. I've been talking for quite a while. I feel a little bit out of breath because this is what the Fantastic Four does to me. I just get too excited when I talk about them, even when the stuff I talk about is not that great. But like, it's like, yeah, essentially, Doctor Doom is such a great villain, and here he's just, like I said, like an evil douchebag businessman. And then, like, you know, he kind of goes like kind of crazy when he like sees that something weird is going on with his skin. Like, oh my god, like, why am I turning metal? And then like he puts on a mask that he got for humanitarian reasons, which is weird gift to give someone when they like are a humanitarian, I guess. And then he has electric powers. I don't know. Yeah, and so the Fantastic Four have to stop him. And yeah, it's like he's not as bad as he is in the 2015 movie Fan Four Stick. That Doctor Doom is definitely worse. I hated what they did with him in that. But here, it just is kind of just more lame than it is terrible, I guess. But I still don't like it. I had to get some water. Sorry, I just really like talking about the Fantastic Four, I guess. I'm gonna talk a bit more of the positives because, like I said, I do think there's some stuff in here that I genuinely do like. Like I talked about a bit about the casting, how I think for the most part it is good or could have been really good if they had just written the characters better. I think there are some moments in this movie that, like, well, I said that I don't like that they like spent a lot of time doing nothing. In those moments, there are some good things in there. Like we see them just kind of hanging out. Like Johnny pulls some pranks on Reed, and then like they kind of like try to figure out how their powers work, and they kind of look at each other weirdly, like, oh, I guess you can do that now. Like I think about like the scene where Reed is trying to grab toilet paper and he just stretches his arm, which I should probably talk about that, but I'll talk about the effects on that, but I'll talk about that later. And then like he just stretches his arm to grab the toilet paper, and Johnny just sees it, and he's just kind of freaked out a little bit. He's just like, oh, okay, you can do that now. Oh, okay. And then just kind of hanging out. And like Johnny being the one to sort of bask in like the fame because of course he would. It just like moments like that feel very like just like I don't know. I kind of like them because they are. I do feel like they would be things the Fantastic Four would do. Because something I love about the Fantastic Four is that they are a family. They're not strangers to each other. They all know each other. They all love each other. But because they're a family, they tend to bicker, argue, pull pranks on each other, and like not love every decision they do. You know, right? They get into fights sometimes, like they do very much in like the early comics by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, which I've read quite a bit of, or a decent amount of it. And so when I was like watching the movie and I saw like the scene where like they're mad at Johnny for like going out and like showing off his powers at this like motorcycle thing. They're all like, Johnny, why would you do that? Like, and then like, you know, I think I was just like, okay, that feels like something that actually feels like something that would happen to the Fantastic Four. And yeah, I think those moments are good, but I just don't like that though. Like for a long time, again, that's kind of the only thing they're doing. They're not doing anything heroic or adventure-y. They just like it just, you know, they're not doing anything like that. And I think a big part is because Victor Von Doom, Doctor Doom, which I mentioned before, I kind of don't like the way he's portrayed in this. I also don't like the way they use him in this. He is very much like a villain who is just kind of like trying to figure out what's happening to him and then does his big villainous thing towards the end. So for the most part, the Fantastic Four aren't fighting anyone. And I'm assuming that's what they wanted to go for, because if they're not going on adventures, then this is not an adventure movie, it's going to be a superhero movie then. But they're not fighting anything, no villains or anything like that. And okay, so sorry, I don't know why I paused there for a second. Anyway, so I have like an idea for how they could have done this. They could have gone about this better. So like I said before, I think Doctor Doom is bad in this, so I don't think he should have been part of the accident. But honestly, when it comes to like making the first Fantastic Four movie in part of like a new franchise, this was my same problem that I had with the 2015 movie, is that I don't think Doctor Doom should be the first villain the Fantastic Four had to deal with. I think he should be later on, maybe even get his own movie and then set him up for like a future Fantastic Four movie, because I think he's just too big to be like just the first villain, like a one-off, like, oh hey, they fight him, boom, he's done. Like I think like there could have been a better choice. Like for example, like in the first issue of Fantastic Four, they fight the Mole Man, and I think like he probably could have been a better choice for a villain. Like I could kind of see it now in this movie. Like they come back from the accident and then they do that heroic thing, and then they're like people are like, oh man, I wonder what they're gonna do next. Will they be the city's heroes? They live in New York, so will they be New York City's new heroes? And then you get these moments where the Mole Man is like the one causing all this chaos throughout the city, and so they have to fight him while at the same time figuring out how to use their powers. So boom, that's how you have the zero to hero moment, like I talked about. Like not do a song sequence. I mean just like have moments throughout the movie where they're fighting a threat, you know, right? And therefore learning how to use their powers, and then people start to love them more. Like, oh my god, they saved us from the most recent Mole Man attack or something like that. And then like, you know, boom. Okay, that works. The Fantastic Four are actually doing superhero stuff, comic book stuff. And then like towards the end, when maybe Mole Man could have like some big final battle, and he goes like, you will never be able to stop me now, and then they have to work together to like, you know, stop it. I don't know, I feel like that would work better. Or if not the Mole Man, then someone like the Wizard, the Puppet Master. Alicia Masters in this movie, so why not the Puppet Master? Like, I don't know, just like I think basically most other Fantastic Four villains could work better for a first villain in a movie than Doctor Doom, essentially is what I'm saying. So I think it goes for the Fan Four Stick movie. I didn't talk about the Zora because I didn't know about this villain at the time, but like what was his name again? Oh my god, sorry, I had to like take a moment to remember because like I was just kind of running out of breath again. I gotta get some more water, but like I was running out of breath again, trying to remember like just like kind of talking quickly, so I lost my train of thought for a second. But Annihilus is a villain from the Fantastic Four comics who like lives in the negative zone, and then in the Fantastic movie they go to the negative zone, yet they still fight Doctor Doom, who was in the same accident as them. It's like, come on, but like that could have been a better first villain than Annihilus. So yeah, that's what I really hope. For the upcoming MCU movie, don't make Doctor Doom the first villain. Have it be like someone else. Maybe not Galactus. Galactus I feel is also way too big, both physically and like metaphorically. But like yeah, just like have someone else be the villain, because there are a bunch of other great Fantastic Four villains. But yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like a really good version of this movie would have still those moments where they're kind of just hanging out and trying to figure out their powers and just like kind of like arguing every now and then, but also them like, you know, fighting a legitimate threat, you know, right? Like some doing actual superhero stuff, heroic stuff in this movie. Or I guess a really better version of this movie would be like them actually going out on an adventure, because that's what they are. They're explorers, they're adventurers. Something else that I do kind of like about this movie is that it is still kind of goofy, honestly. Like, I don't know, it still kind of has that sort of goofy comic book feel. Not as much as like other movies per se, other comic book movies, but like still, it's somewhat there. They don't lose like the, you know, like the kind of silliness, inherent silliness of the situation that these people can like do all this stuff. It's still kind of there. It's still got the comedy a bit, and like it still like somewhat has moments from the comics that I like. Like I said, like them just kind of like arguing with each other, or like, you know, right, just acting like a family in a sense, and like get bickering every now and then. And and I remember like at the same time as I was watching these, I was also watching some of the Fox X-Men movies for the first time, and early on. Something that I didn't really love about those movies is that like they tried, the way they looked did not feel reminiscent of the X-Men comics. They kind of took out a lot of the color, a lot of the fun, like funness of like the costumes that they wore, all that stuff. It just like it was all kind of drab, like black and gray, like jumpsuits, and it's like, or like leather suits is what I mean. And like I don't know, I remember kind of watching them going like, I don't really like that, honestly, and it kind of took me out of it. I was just like I don't know, it just doesn't really have the stuff from the X-Men that I do like. In this movie, they do still try to like actually have stuff from the comics, where like the color of it, you know, is what I mean. However, just like those movies, it kind of feels like they take out some of the stuff from the comics that I like. For example, like in X-Men, they try to like try to like not go too wild with like the plots that they do. They like try to keep it like sort of grounded with the whole like, oh, mutants and like all that stuff, like oh, the mutant prejudice, which I think is definitely something important to keep with X-Men stories. But it also means that they don't have stuff like them fighting big giant robots, or some of the insane sci-fi stuff that they get you know, they do. And like because of that, it kind of makes the movies feel a little bit boring. Like they can't go full comic book with it. And here, it's not exactly on that level, but because for a long time they're not doing anything, it kind of feels like it also is somewhat still trying to do that, where like they can't go full comic book with it. They can't go on any wild adventures. They kind of just have to be in New York, kind of just hanging out, I guess, and only fighting towards the end. And like it's just like I don't really like that. I can sort of see this movie being somewhat affected by like what were the really hit comic book movies at the time, specifically Spider-Man from Sony and the X-Men from Fox, where like I said, where like definitely feels like they want to be somewhat more colorful and like, you know, lean into at least a little bit of the goofiness, like the Spider-Man movies, or the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, but they also wanted to be like the X-Men and sort of like not go too far into the comic book realm, so it still is somewhat grounded in some reality, but like because of that they lose some of what made the original stories fun. And yeah, that's kind of what I feel with this movie, and because of that, it kind of makes the movie feel like, you know, still somewhat fun. Like I enjoyed myself, I enjoyed parts of it, like some of it could be good and like had like good character moments, but it also feels like not that exciting. Like I'm not watching these guys do anything. Like they're not going on adventures, they're not saving the city except for like towards the end. And yeah, I just like, I don't know, I just kind of didn't love that. But like I still somewhat enjoyed the movie, because like it still had good elements in it. Like okay, I was still having a genuinely good time. I just kind of wish that like there was just more to it to have made it more exciting. Like when I had read the comics for the first time, I was just like, oh, these are exciting. This, and not as much. The effects, okay, I mentioned this earlier. So the effects, very much early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, where not all of it is great. Some movies definitely had good effects. This one is like not, I don't know, not as great. Like some, like, it's like I like that they went for like a practical suit for the Thing. I think that was good. It looks a little bit goofy, but it's also kind of charming, so I like it. But the way they represent like Mr. Fantastic's powers is like, it's CGI and it looks kind of gross. Like, I remember the first time I saw him stretch his arm, I legit said ew, like, actually, because like it did not look good, honestly. His hand just turned into like a PS2 game hand. It's just like, oh my god, yeah, I didn't like it. But like, I guess this was the best they could do. The other effects are fine, like Susan turning invisible looked good enough. I think it looked alright. Same thing for Johnny, going on fire, flame on, all that stuff. And let's see, yeah, that's kind of what I had to say about the effects. They like mostly okay in some parts, and then whatever that PS2 game hand that like game arms that like that Mr. Fantastic had. There's one scene where Johnny showed Ben a toy of like him of the Thing, and it goes, it's clobbering time, and I think that's where they explained that's why he started saying it. Like later on he says it's clobbering time. And I don't know what it is about these Fantastic Four movies from the ones that I've seen, but like they always give like a dumb explanation for why Ben says it's clobbering time. Like in the 2015 movie, he says it because like that he learned it from like his brother, I think, who abused him as a kid and said that as he was beating him, it's clobbering time, which is like, first of all, kind of terrible, but also kind of ridiculous. Like, really, you say that as you like child abuse is not funny, but why would you say that while you're beating? That's like hard for me to take seriously. And like, why did Ben say it as his heroic chant? You want that to be your heroic chant? Something that was said to you as you were beaten as a child? I don't like that. It's very ridiculous. And in here, it's like Johnny shows Ben like a toy of the Thing, and it says it's clobbering time, and then later Ben says it, and I guess he said like that's like he kind of went with that, like, yeah, that's what my toy says, so I'll say it as well. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I do think it's interesting though that the toy that they got is like an actual toy that exists. It's like a Toy Biz Thing figure. I see it online sometimes. I might get it just because like it's a movie prop now, so I want it now. But like, yeah, there's that. There is one more thing I want to mention. I really want to wrap up this video soon because I've been talking for quite a bit. But like, I legit feel a little bit out of breath. I need another sip of water. But as I do this, I'll explain what I'm talking about. Okay, so like, So this ending scene, or not the ending scene, but like the final action sequence, is them defeating Doctor Doom. And apparently there's actually a different version of this fight, where in the original version, they defeated him, but it was apparently way too similar to the ending of like The Incredibles, which had came out a year prior. And so they had to change it to something different in this movie. And I don't really want to say like how they defeated, not because it's bad, but because like I genuinely cannot remember. I've seen this movie twice, but why can't I remember? And also, like I said, I'm kind of out of breath. But like, yeah, essentially, I think that's interesting that like they had to like change the ending because it was just too similar to The Incredibles, apparently. But yeah, in The Incredibles, the better Fantastic Four film. But like, yeah, I don't know what else is. I think that's it. So overall, Fantastic Four 2005, I would actually say I had a good time with it. I enjoyed myself a little bit more than I expected, honestly. I do think there were some parts of it that like I actually felt like if executed better, if like tightened up quite a bit and like, they changed things up, it actually could have been a pretty darn good Fantastic Four story. I actually see elements in here that makes me go like, okay, I think this is the closest we've gotten to a genuinely good Fantastic Four movie. However, a lot of it is also kind of bogged down by some decisions, like the Fantastic Four can't do anything wild like they do in the comics. It's still gotta be like, they gotta remove some of the comic book goofiness to it. And also like, just the fact that Doctor Doom is just not that good. Like, some of the characterizations aren't that great, but like casting wise is mostly good. Some elements actually do feel also genuinely good and feel like Fantastic Four moments. And like I said, I do think stuff like Ben's storyline is legitimately interesting. It just, so yeah, it kind of like, I guess I'm kind of upset with that, but like I think overall this movie was fun. I would watch it again, honestly. I mean, I bought the Blu-ray and like I'm kind of glad I kept it. And like also I want to talk a bit about, I'm gonna quickly, this commentary is a lie. It says that it includes Ian Gruffer, Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, Michael Chiklis, and Julian McMahon, but it actually only has Ian Gruffer, Jessica Alba, and Michael Chiklis. No Chris Evans or Julian McMahon, so that was a lie. I felt cheated, but like still, it was actually quite interesting. Yeah, like I could tell like they were having fun recording this commentary, even if like And now I'm kind of questioning how much of what they say is true because, again, Jessica Alba, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. You deserve better. But, like, yeah. But yeah, back what I was saying. Sorry for that. I think this movie, I had a good time, you know? It is definitely the best live-action Fantastic Four film I've seen so far. Keep in mind, the competition is, like, not that strong. And, yeah. So, yeah, well, it's not a great Fantastic Four story. It is the closest one has, like, a movie has come to telling a pretty darn good one. So yeah, I still had fun. I just kind of wish parts of it were better. But hey, I think that shows something about this movie that, like, it came close. It came somewhat close. And I'm really hoping that the upcoming MCU film is, like, good, because I genuinely feel like the Fantastic Four need, like, a good film, because, like, I know there are some people out there who don't really care about reading the comics, which is a shame because they are great. I absolutely recommend you read them. But, like, let's just hope that, this movie does them justice, because I love these characters so much, and it would be great to see them, like, be, like, loved by the general audience. It's like, I think they should be. I know a lot of people know the Fantastic Four are, but, like, it kind of seems like some people, like, don't really love them. But, like, yeah, I don't know. That's, I guess, all I'm saying. I just hope the new one's good. I'm excited for it. I am a little bit worried because some of the recent MCU stuff, minus a few exceptions, have not been the best, but, I'll be optimistic. So, yeah. Thank you for listening to all this. I am very tired. I need to catch my breath again. I don't know. Maybe I'll take a little break. Plan something with my friend Ricardo to do over something to do over the weekend. Because yes, I do hang out with my friends. Because I do have.
I'm still here, right?
Ricardo?
You never hung up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, my bad then.
It's good. By the way, since you seem to know a lot about the Fantastic Four, do you know if Reed and Sue do weird sex things with their powers?